Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited and pleased to be able to say I'm joined by two very experienced social media and customer service experts. We've got Chris Phelps from Serco.
Morning.
Hi Chris. And Tom Roberts from Redrow.
Hi everyone.
Thanks Tom. Um, Hopefully you can hear us and you can see us okay. We're doing something a little bit different today. We've got no slides. We're not doing the usual style. We've got a more of an informal chat, more of a debate, and we're going to be looking at social media customer service and reflecting a little bit back on some of the trends and experiences that we've seen over the last 12 months, and then maybe what we're kind of looking forward to in 2019 when it comes to delivering exceptional social media customer service, whatever that means for you. So yeah, let's get started, I think. Guys, do you want to just spend 30 seconds each just to introduce yourselves and the organisation, and then we can jump into some questions.
Yeah, Tom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Tom Roberts. I work for Redrow Homes in the group communications team. So we look after PR and social media and customer service as well a little bit, which ties in nicely. And Redrow, for those that don't know, is one of the larger house builders in the UK. So we build just under 6,000 homes a year.
Brilliant.
I'm Chris Phelps. I work at Serco Leisure, where I'm the management information manager. Previously, I was the digital media manager, which is where my social media stuff is coming from for this. But we run sort of 60 plus kind of gyms, swimming pools, leisure centres around the UK, ranging from kind of a pool on the back of a school up to Olympic training venues. So kind of a big spectrum of facilities and a wide range of customer types.
Brilliant. Thanks. And do you know what's really interesting? So both of your organisations, you've got the same sort of complexity in common, where you've got the multiple locations where you're managing like up to sort of 50 social media accounts maybe, or a bit more, bit less based on the number of locations. So can you...
Yeah, I think we're on 20 now. Something.
20? Okay. Yeah.
120.
120?
Yeah, we got a bit carried away.
Ah, no, more the better, I think. So do you mind sharing a little bit about what's your current social media setup? Like, what's your structure? You know, how's it configured at each of the organisations?
Chris, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah. We'll go back and forth. So we've got a kind of a distributor model in terms of how we manage our social media. So we've got, say, 60 venues out there. In those venues, there will be, a few people on site with access to our social media channels. They're supported by a regional marketing manager who kind of oversees multiple regions. And then that's overseen further by our head office team who look over the whole estate. So we kind of get a combination of things where if we're doing like a business-wide campaign, like our Black Friday campaign, we can take that from our central team in Leicester and broadcast out to the whole country. But if you want to do something kind of really hyper-local, where it's about, one particular gym instructor doing something amazing for charity, that can come at a local level and be put into the feed. So yeah, a good combination of kind of oversight in different levels and kind of input from kind of all kind of levels within the business as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, so I used to operate in the leisure sector as well at Parkwood. So I went from managing a similar kind of setup in terms of 130 accounts, users kind of spread all across those, and lots of people feeding into different accounts, to Redrow, which operates a bit differently. So we've got regional divisions. We have 15 of them, which is how house builders tend to operate. Each one of those has a dedicated customer service team. So we need to get content to them. But unlike my previous experience in the leisure market, we don't actually have accounts separate for each of those places. There's just national kind of top level Redrow accounts primarily. So because that's the brand that customers are used to interacting with, that's what makes sense for them to have a sort of social relationship with Redrow as a single entity. So that makes it a bit of a logistical challenge, or that's certainly where the fun came in at the beginning of trying to work out, well, how can we set up, because we don't want one person sat in head office or one team trying to respond to your query in Devon or Liverpool or wherever it might be. It needs to be someone on the ground and local. So that's where we use Crowd Control HQ to sort of use the conversations functionality to get content to the people that need to be responding to, and still do that in a very quick kind of way that we need.
Do you know what, with you guys at Redrow, Tom, I think it was Matt who described it as the social media plumbing for Redrow, which I think is a great way to describe it, because it is literally the pipes that join up all the different sort of offices and teams and users, so that the social media messages can sort of flow in the right way into the right people, the right times, and things like that.
That's it, and going out as well. So we've also got it, for all our different PR agencies that we have around the country, they can access the platform and feed stuff in. So plumbing is it's a good metaphor that does get used a lot when we're explaining it internally as well, just because that's absolutely how we see it working.
Brilliant, brilliant. And actually, well, if you think about the setups at both at Circo and Redrow, where's the biggest sort of part of the complexity? Is it in bringing the teams together, like the end users together, sort of forwarding messages in the right way to make sure people can respond in the right ways?
I think sometimes people expect you to have the context of what they're talking about straight away. So they can send you a message and just say, why is it 10 o'clock and no one's turned up yet? And you have to kind of say, I'm sorry to that, could you just give me a little more to go on, and try and kind of tease that detail out. And that's particularly when it's a national account. Sometimes that can be one of the challenges. So we as a central team can figure out, what do we need to do with this message to kind of get the solution the customer's looking for, and who does it need to go to.
Interesting. So they're sending you a message and they presume you know who they are, and they presume where they are and what they're talking about, and you have to sort of figure that out for yourself sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, and then there's the added complexity of you want to do that if they're sharing personal information outside of a public forum. So that's something that I've seen more and more. We try and get them to do that through a direct message or something like that, and they instantly think you're trying to cover everything up and all that kind of stuff. We get often accused of. So just taking the time to explain to customers, no, this is purely just, we don't want you sharing your data in a public forum.
Interesting. And how about you, Chris? I think it's quite an interesting concept. Like, people, they always expect that their situation, and obviously on social, you don't always have that kind of information.
Yeah, actually, we have a really similar kind of complications what Tom has, and because we have pages for every single kind of local leisure centre, and the people, they know the centre, they know the staff in the centre, and the staff in the centre know who they are. So when Barry sends you a message going, "Is Big Dave teaching Zumba tonight?" I'm like, oh, he's on the timetable, but if you're asking, is Big Dave teaching it tonight, there's obviously a thought that he might not be. And if someone's not updated their kind of main timetable on the website, and there's some sort of staff switcheroo happening, centrally you don't know about it, which is when you kind of have to start sort of drilling down, getting in touch with your local team, so they can kind of respond to that in a much more kind of local way, so they know what's going on. But we still get questions like Tom said, where someone goes, "Oh, how much is this?" Right? I don't know where you are. What are you talking about?
It's particularly like at Trixie Bell 92 or something like that. There's just no sign of who this person might be.
I mean, you can take a punt because we've got kind of a big membership database. We can kind of look people up and sometimes figure out who they are, what they're talking about. But a lot of the time we end up in a nice bit of dialogue to kind of explain what's going on, and kind of letting people understand that it's not just someone behind reception or Byington. There is a broader support structure there to work with it. While some people are like, "Oh no, I want to speak to my gym about my problem," to kind of help them understand, well, we're part of the same company. When they're busy, we're answering questions for them and kind of reassure them it's not kind of some terrifying kind of offshore service center who's going to start selling their data on the dark web, or whatever other concerns people have nowadays. So there's a complexity there, and the other sort of complexity is kind of trying to coordinate what's happening, because if you've got 60 odd venues of their own accounts, which they're doing things locally, we're doing things centrally, we obviously communicate to them and brief out to them when we're doing a big campaign. We supply them with all the approved artwork and some sample copy and things like that. But just to make sure that kind of people don't kind of go off book, start doing their own thing. Go, well, we know there's a real poster for this, but we made our own. which doesn't have the terms and conditions on, and then suddenly that's going to be a problem for us. So yeah, it's that kind of collaborative working becomes really, really complicated when you've got a lot of venues with a lot of people with access. But what's kind of really beneficial is kind of within crowd control, you can see who's posted it, so you know exactly what users come from. So straight away you can sort of remove their post or tweak their post, or get in touch and kind of explain, oh, we need to make sure this is included for these reasons. And they're generally pretty okay with it when they kind of understand why you need to make these amendments, rather than just kind of swooping in and deleting things en masse. So kind of that collaborative kind of functionality and control we found really useful, sort of thing.
Yeah, brilliant, very interesting. So moving on then, I guess, to a different sort of topic area. If you were going to look back on maybe the past 12 months or maybe a little bit longer, what would you say is the biggest challenge or trend you've seen recently with regards to managing social media customer service for your organizations?
I think the biggest sort of trend I've sort of seen across the whole industry is the creation of like people with personality, which seems kind of funny when you think about it, but it definitely used to be kind of like the very robotic corporate line of, oh, we're sorry for these technical difficulties, we're working hard to resolve them. And it sounds, you can feel kind of, the manager standing behind the keyboard going, no, we must keep all of our things secret and say there were technical problems. And that's completely changed now. I mean, it started off, they were kind of cool companies, used to be really, really personality rich in their social media. But now, all good companies are doing a really good job of it. I got into like a weird meme conversation with someone at Sainsbury's the other day about trolleys, which was great fun for me. They seemed to be enjoying themselves, but it was like I was speaking to a guy who I knew his name. We were having some fun. We spent like 20 minutes going back and forth over something, and I left a really, really positive experience about their customer service, because not only had they kind of looked at my problem and resolved that problem, I'd also felt I dealt with a human being who was actually a nice person who wanted to help, wanted to make sure I had a good day. And that definitely seems to be the difference. It's much more kind of ability to be more personal, a bit more relatable, and kind of be empowered to solve customer problems rather than just kind of fobbing someone off for a press release.
Yeah, interesting. I think I've definitely seen that as well from being a consumer myself, that sense of personality coming through. So it's not so serious and boring and dull as it was maybe 12, 24 months ago, something like that.
Yeah,
how about you, Tom?
As well, just in terms of it's one of the things when we introduce customer service teams to the platform, when people first go on, we have to spend quite a bit of time almost removing the kind of language that's been built in and ingrained into them for so long. So when they're saying, we apologize for any inconvenience you may have been caused, and just actually saying sorry, which is kind of radical thinking sometimes when it comes to this, but it makes such a difference to just having those more human interactions and opening up. But the thing I was going to say that I think I've spotted more and more over the last year or so is just customer expectations are rising. The service levels they sort of expect are constantly going up. So it's kind of it's not enough just to be improving as an organization or as a company, or because the levels are going up so quickly. And even you can't just compare against your peer group or competitors, I think, because the customer you're speaking to might have just had a fantastic experience at John Lewis. That's probably who they're comparing you to when they tweet in or write a message. So it's really just seeing these sort of levels of expectation go up, and the need to constantly be reevaluating and improving what we're doing. Yeah,
really interesting. And I think you're absolutely right. It's I think you can sometimes, as you alluded to, compare yourself to other organizations working in your space, but your customers, they're having experiences and interactions with any other kind of organization out there on Twitter or Facebook, and that's who you're sort of competing with, as you alluded to.
Yeah
100%. Yeah. All right, cool. So moving on. So if you were going to say, what's the one key element in your experience to running an effective process, effective setup when it comes to delivering customer care and customer service on social media? What would you say if you went back in time and you could give yourself one bit of advice, or another one of your friends, one of your colleagues is in an interesting situation? What's the one thing that you would say, where to focus on, where to start? Like, what's the key bit? Maybe for you, Chris, to start. Oh, sorry, Tom.
I'll go first. You started.
Okay. For me, I think it's probably about it's upfront. So and I'm always saying this, but the more time you can put into like training, rollout, and preparation, the better, because it really does pay so many dividends. So just taking time and money essentially, and treating it really seriously, getting like the board involved so people understand what you're trying to do, and it might not be the board, but people across the organisation, because it's not just going to be the customer service team or the marketing team that are affected if you're doing a proper rollout. It's going to touch on all areas of your organisation. So I think that training piece is so key. And having previously used Crowd Control HQ at my other company, I was able to sort of understand that a little bit more. So I did have that kind of benefit of looking back. One of the things we did at Redrow was we had sort of 2 big training days for all customer service teams, spent a lot of time talking about tone of voice, looking at examples of good practice, and it was very much sort of focused on that. How do we want to come across? What would you expect as a customer? And taking the time to listen to their concerns, because you know what it's like when you mention, well, we're going to get you replying to customers on social media as well. There's the people that just panic, and you can see the colour in their face. So really trying to take time to understand those concerns, and then say, well, look, don't worry about it. And we did a small bit on the technology as well. So most of that training is all about the kind of softer stuff, and a little bit of, well, actually, here's an easy to use platform that's not going to be a problem for you. So I think that's probably the upfront bit that really is so key if you're looking at a rollout or anything else, to just spend time getting right. And then beyond that, it's just about having the confidence to keep going with it, because when you're monitoring what's coming in on social day in, day out, it can occasionally be a bit of a negative experience. You can feel a bit browbeaten because, we all know people can be a little bit negative on social sometimes, much more than they would be on other channels. Someone can, get a bit angry, quickly fire off a tweet, and then they've probably forgotten about it, or when they read it back 10, 20 minutes later, they actually think, well, I was a bit harsh there. But you're the one reading, 30, 40 of these as they're coming in at a time, and that kind of stuff. So I think having the confidence to say, this is okay, that's how social works, and actually by going back with a reasonable sort of measured response that's polite and friendly, the majority of anyone else who's looking at that is going to be on your side, I think. And sometimes we just have to remind the teams that as well. And if anyone feels uncomfortable with the content, then letting them know we've got the support, and or they've got the support, and do you know what, fine, that's okay, we're just going to close this down, we're not going to reply to it. We can look at blocking a customer if they're particularly difficult, and speak to them via other channels. That there are options available, and I think that's what staff need to know.
Yeah, like giving them that reassurance or the safety blanket that you've got their back. And it's going to be fine. Like there's nothing to worry about actually at the end of the day. Makes sense.
Actually, that was an incredibly good answer, and you kind of
Thanks, Chris.
give you kind of most of the stuff I wanted to talk about, which is great because it saves me some time. But to kind of reiterate, I think a part of it is really, like I say, getting people to buy into the idea of this is important, and it takes time and money to do well. I mean, there's this kind of thing where you speak to some of our more kind of old school colleagues, and social media, that's like pictures of cats on the internet, isn't it? Why am I investing in this? And it's like, it's kind of not. It's kind of much, much bigger. And if you start to really think about it, like, the front desk in your building, but it's kind of an electronic version of it, you wouldn't just leave a front desk unmanned. You wouldn't just say, people just stand in a line for 20 minutes and not be spoken to. It's the exact same thing, but it's kind of online and visible for everyone. So it's really a case of treating customer service online like you would in person or over the phone. So, you make sure you speak to someone, in a timely manner. You don't just abandon them for days on end. It's kind of making sure as a business you're willing to kind of resource that in terms of, someone's time, someone's salary, and kind of training to make sure that they are going to be around to answer those questions. Because like you said earlier, kind of people's expectations are getting kind of bigger and bigger. People going, oh, I sent a tweet, why have I had a reply back in 10 minutes? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's incredibly fast. And you can't achieve that kind of service performance if it's kind of, well, you log on to crowd control for an hour in the afternoon just to see what's going on. It's like being next to the phone at reception. It's like a queue of people, as they walk into your building. You have to be there to kind of deal with it and commit to be there to deal with it. Yeah. Because the bigger part of it, which people kind of keep kind of forgetting, is that if you're having a really bad experience in customer service wise in social media, it's kind of visible to everyone. Everyone else who goes to that page or that account can see people asking questions and not getting replies, or not getting replies in a timely fashion, or they're getting out really stilted kind of robotic answers of people. So, people get aware really, really quickly that, this particular kind of venue doesn't really care about the customer service element. If you're doing a bad job, in your building, the 3 people who are watching find out. If you're doing a bad job on social, the 30,000 people watching find out. So it's kind of very much it's almost more important than picking up the phone, because everybody sees you're not picking up the phone.
Yeah, and I really like that analogy, actually. If it was a sort of a more visible situation, as you said, people walking into the building and having to wait, 20 minutes, like that's not acceptable, but it's strange how often it can be seen as acceptable for people to wait on social media, which obviously we advocate that it's not. But it's just interesting, the different perspectives. So just on that, actually, how would you go about, I think, Chris, sorry, jumping ahead here, actually, I know you've got an interesting story about how you can proactively do some kind of listening and things on social media, so that you're almost not waiting for people to contact you on social. You can actually proactively listen out for them, so you can be one step ahead. Wondering if you just wanted to share that story, because I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite examples we have. So we took over the National Water Sports Centre in Nottingham a few years ago now. So it was kind of previously run by the council, and it needs a bunch of investment to get everything kind of back up to spec after being a bit quiet for a number of years. So we were on site the first week, and we'd set up in crowd control like a geofence around the country park area. And normally in the Buzz Monitor tool, you kind of put in some key terms you want to look for. We have to use the key term of the space, so space between 2 words. So because essentially every tweet is more than 1 word, so it will have a space in it. So it hoovers up every single comment that's occurring within your venue. So we were kind of demoing this software to our new colleagues who hadn't seen anything like this before, and we had all the tweets getting hoovered up from the area, and we saw someone just tweeting, "It's really, really hot in my room. I can't turn the heating off." And that was their entire message. It didn't say who they were, where they were staying, anything about that. They were just kind of hollering into Twitter, just complaining about something. But we knew from the geofence they were going to be in our building, which has accommodation. So we looked at the guy's name. We knew he was staying with us. So sort of popped down the corridor. I got our sort of head of maintenance. We found out what room the guy was in. Popped down, knocked on this door really politely. He was like, "Hi, here you've got trouble with your radiator. I've got a spanner here. We can turn the radiator off for you." And we did it, and the guy had his problem solved. And it was kind of really fascinating, because he had just tweeted into the void of his problem, and yet somehow within about 20 minutes, a man turned up at his door with a spanner to fix it. He hadn't asked anyone, he hadn't said who he is or where he was, but this magic happened where we did some great customer service, and kind of using tools in really interesting ways. So like hoovering up all the tweets to find those little nuggets where you can engage with people was really fascinating. I'm really hoping that guy, spoke to some friends later, was like, "Yeah, this happened. I don't know how they did it, but it was great." Yeah, really kind of a brand from that.
You have a customer for life, I think, after that kind of experience. Brilliant.
So I was going to say we've used social listening to good effect too, but I think that it's the type of thing that can't be rolled out just without any thought, because we had at one stage, I think an agency were helping us to manage it, and we were getting to the point where, it's, yes, great, we can pick up things that aren't even mentioning us, we can start to jump in and find the conversations, and we'd get someone, tweeting, OMG, I really need to move out. And then almost like a bot, we'd kind of jump into the conversation and go, hi, did you know you can find some houses here? And it was getting to that kind of creepy stage, I think.
Okay.
So I really like social listening. I think it's one of the more advanced tools, probably, isn't it? That really does take some time and looking at it with sort of all stakeholders in the business and thinking, well, what do we need? And there are lots of other uses outside of the traditional case. So, we can use it now, for example, for looking at land for sale and things like that,
Right.
outside of the traditional marketing or customer service remit.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different use cases, as you said. Okay, so I think we're almost on to the last point now. So really just wanted to sort of round off with to hear what you guys think of, like, what's the biggest opportunity for organizations when it comes to delivering customer service on social as we're heading into 2019.
It's your turn first, I think, Chris, isn't it?
Okay. I think the kind of things we already talked about, it's a case of investing time, effort, and personality into it, and just doing the good customer service you already do in your business on a day-to-day basis. You speak to customers in person, all the time. You speak to them on the phone all the time, and you do a great job at that. You can do exactly the same online, and that kind of open, honest kind of communication is hugely valuable to customers. They understand much better why there's a problem if you can explain to them, in really, really human ways what the concern is. It's not just a technical malfunction. You can explain to them, this thing happened, and we're fixing it. And they're generally happy when they know what's going on. So I think that's, for me, the biggest thing you can do this year. It is, invest time, invest effort, invest money, and just invest in, being people online, because people join Facebook to speak to companies. They join Facebook to speak to their families and their friends and human beings. And really, as a business, you should replicate that thought. You should be a person who they're engaging with, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, interesting. So do you have an example, Chris, of trying to bring the real people personality and not using the technical phrases, we've got a technical problem, therefore the pool is closed and things like that?
Yeah, the pool closed one is something we had a huge learnings on over the last kind of year or so. There's definitely this thing in the leisure industry of kind of closing swimming pools because someone has soiled the water. It happens. Anyone who works in the leisure industry knows that happens. There was always this kind of belief that you just say, oh no, we've closed the pool due to technical difficulties, and that was your stock message. And when you say that, people just think, oh, technical difficulties, like your pumps are broken. What, don't you maintain them? Didn't you fix them? Are you running this cheaply? Do you not know what you're doing? And kind of the feeling starts to become that as an operator, you're terrible, and now the customer's disadvantaged. When we moved to a much more kind of open and honest kind of thing, we explained in polite terms that the pooled water has been contaminated. Suddenly, customers are really happy. Because their swimming lessons have been closed, but they don't want to swim in a pool that's not clean. Yeah. They're very, very happy that you've closed the pool for them to rectify that problem. And instead of complaining about you as an operator, this whole sort of comments thread now starts complaining about this kind of imaginary child who has soiled your water. And suddenly they're much more kind of in this mindset of kind of assigning blame to kind of this individual, kind of parent of that individual who's caused this problem, rather than blaming you as an operator. And quite often, you actually get sympathy as an organization that you've had to cancel a bunch of swim lessons, you've had to refund a bunch of customers because this has happened, and it wasn't, as an organization, your fault. That kind of honesty has been kind of quite radical to us, but it's been a huge benefit. Yeah. Being open and honest, fantastic. Obviously, we never name and shame the people who are doing the soiling. Just to be kind of clear, we say,
good to hear.
But people are really happy when they kind of understand you're doing it for the best of reasons, and something's happened outside of your control.
Yeah, I can see how people would appreciate that. It's just been a bit more open, isn't it? A bit more open, a bit more transparent, a bit more honest. Yeah, and how about you, Tom?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with Chris in terms of as transparent as you can be, and often there are other constraints. That's just really helps, and people always appreciate that. But for me, what we've just been doing a bit more of recently, we've been up and running with the software for just shy of 18 months now. So we've got a tremendous wealth of data, and we've done analysis as we go and that kind of stuff, but really taking more of a deep dive into what's going on, what are the common themes and things that are coming out of that. So we found one was people continually thinking, all new builds are the same in terms of quality. And we feel strongly that's not the case. We've got a premium product. We know our customers feel that way once they go into our show homes and see them. And we were getting so many messages along that line that we actually went and shot some really high quality premium content directly targeted against that message. So again, it comes back to that investment line. But by picking up the common threads and going and producing something that was really targeted against this common message we saw, we actually had a video that started with a kind of chat bubble coming up saying they don't build homes like they used to, and someone else saying, or do they, and then launch into this bit of footage, just really going around and kind of showing what we need, and that's been very successful. And there's so many more use cases for that kind of behavior that we can do now as we go into 2019 of kind of what are the other common things that we're seeing. So ideally we're answering questions before they get asked, and even those kind of unanswered doubts that people might have or anything like that, we're actually getting really on the front foot and addressing it.
No, I love that. I think it shows you it's kind of almost taking it to the next level, isn't it? Once you've got actually responding to the questions nailed down and you're doing it in a timely way and professional way, taking it to the next level is looking out to try and preempt maybe some of the questions and creating content around that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, great stuff. I know we're pretty much at the time. We've just got a couple of questions, guys, if you're okay to hang on for another couple of minutes.
Yeah, go for it.
So I've got a question here. Like, how did you convince your colleagues actually in customer services to sort of get involved and have the confidence that they can respond to messages on social media when perhaps it's something they hadn't done before, or they thought it was only the marketing team or the comms team that do social media? Yeah, just a little, 30 seconds just on what you thought about that and how you kind of started approaching that.
Yeah, do you want me to pick that one up first? So I'd say the software is really good for that. I mean, it is a good question. It's something a lot of people worry about. But within Crowd Control, particularly the conversation suite, is really good at stripping away all of the platform specific things. So actually what you're left with is a message, and it's exactly the same as if it came in via email or anything else. Right. And that's where it's just a bit of reassurance going through that with them. And the exercise we did in training is actually, let's do pen and paper, let's write out some responses and discuss them as a team. Do we think that's good, yes or no? And it's just doing that really just gives people the confidence they need that actually, yeah, this isn't really any different from what I've been doing previously.
Yeah, I probably really agree with you on that. I mean, for us, kind of the guys who are kind of working on our social media channels, work in our leisure venues, and they do customer service all day, every day. They interact with people, at the front desk, in the gym, in the swim lesson, whatever it's going to be, and they're all completely capable of talking to someone, in person, over the phone, over an email. And like you said, it's exactly the same thing. It's just it's a slightly different box you're typing a word into. So it's to kind of just reassure them, it's fine. You know how to speak to people. Just keep doing that. Keep being useful, keep being friendly, and it's all going to be okay. And like you said, with the platform, there's kind of a level of oversight into there. So if someone's having trouble, you can get involved. Or if someone's doing a really great job, you can go and sort of praise them for it. You can kind of make an example of them doing excellent work for customers and kind of encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, brilliant. just looking through the other questions. Sorry. So probably the last one, and then we can wrap up. Because just conscious of time. So, question from Anne Marie: a common opinion in my company is that customers are jumping the queue using social. Very interesting, and getting a quicker response. It's a struggle to get them to see this as a positive. Yeah, interesting opinion, I guess. I don't know if you think, do you agree that they're sort of jumping the queue on social? I guess there is that mentality that people think if they shout loudly, make a bit of a fuss, kick up a bit of dust on social, that they will get a response more quickly. Probably in some cases it is true, but I don't think it's true every time.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and it's something that companies can struggle with, and because it's not fair. It's not fair on the person who might have written in the letter, and it's taking a lot longer to get back to them than you might do if they'd sent in a tweet. I think there is a level of customer expectation, though. People acknowledge that different channels do have different response times, and I think it's just the reality, unfortunately. And you're not going to do anyone any favors if you say, well, we respond to all communication just on the basis of when it came in. It doesn't matter which channel, because it is going to be the people on social that are kicking off and saying, "Why haven't you got back to me?" It's not the people whose email's gone a couple of days unanswered. So it's a really good point, and I think it's probably just saying, actually, that's unfortunately the way it is. And often on social, you could just go, "Hi there, thanks for getting in touch. I can confirm we've got your email you sent, and a member of the team will get back in touch with you." And just that kind of reassurance, you have gone back to them, they've not been left waiting, and you're also showing you've got a joined up approach to customer services. So hopefully that is one way to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you completely on that. I mean, certain things, are more time sensitive because they're public, so you probably want to, do those quite quickly. And again, if it's, if someone sends you a question in the tweet and you can reply, in 280 characters and fix their problem, great, you can do that in seconds. If someone writes you a print letter, you're going to have to sit there, write a formal letter back, find some letterhead paper, find a printer. God knows where I've got one of those anymore. And actually send a thing and frank it and post it. That's so much more time investment. So, yeah, you're probably going to spend a lot longer to reply to a print letter than you will be, someone's tweet. As long as you deal with everybody in like a reasonable time frame, I don't think it's a massive concern. I mean, and if at the risk of sort of saying blame the customer, if they're dissatisfied that people on Twitter are getting answers faster than if they post something in, send me a tweet. Why not? If you want a quick answer, do that, or ring me up on the phone. We have many channels of communication for a reason. If you've got something that needs a quick answer, maybe pick up the phone, give us a call. We can deal with it in seconds. In a one-to-one basis.
Yeah, super interesting, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's just a feature of the channel, isn't it? As you alluded to, it's just social media is more fast-paced. It's more convenient. People can do it on their phone and get the answer while they're still out shopping, rather than phoning up or sending an email or even the letter, as you alluded to. Yeah, brilliant. Well, conscious of time, guys, so I just want to say a massive thank you for joining today. I've really enjoyed it. I hope everyone that's joining us today has got some benefit from it and found it interesting and worthwhile. If you, just give us a tweet. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on the webinar, what you found interesting, anything you've learned today you might apply to your own organization. We'd love to hear that. And again, guys, thank you. And, I'd look to be in touch with you again soon. Thanks, guys.
So,
Bye.